AMD stock is heading into the long weekend with a little less heat than we saw earlier in the month, but the story remains compelling. Shares finished the week at about $162.63, off roughly 3.5% from the previous close. That's a noticeable dip, especially after a run that pushed the stock up toward the mid-160s earlier this month. But as we sit back over the long weekend, it's worth stepping back and putting this in perspective. This pullback wasn't unique to AMD. The broader AI and semiconductor sector saw pressure. Nvidia, TSMC, and other chip names all moved lower as geopolitical headlines flared up again and reports of new competition out of China rattled sentiment. The specific trigger was news that Alibaba is working on developing its own AI chips, a move that investors interpreted as a sign that Chinese firms may be less dependent on American suppliers over the long run. That headline was enough to send a wave of selling across the sector. AMD, despite its own strong fundamentals, was swept into that downdraft. But here's the key point. Nothing about Tuesday's action changed AMD's trajectory in terms of its technology, its partnerships, or its revenue outlook. The pullback looks more like a sector-wide reset than a stock-specific problem. In fact, when you look at AMD's trading behavior, it found support quickly near $162. It didn't collapse. That matters because it shows buyers are still there, waiting for opportunities to step in. For longer-term investors, this kind of consolidation is often healthy. A stock can't go straight up forever. Periods of cooling off shake out the weak hands and reset the base for the next move higher. AMD's underlying story continues to look strong. Its data center business is growing rapidly, fueled by demand for AI workloads. The company's MI300 and MI350 series accelerators are gaining traction, with hyperscalers increasingly integrating AMD into their infrastructure alongside Nvidia. This is a critical shift. For years, Nvidia was the only real game in town for AI accelerators. But as AI demand explodes, customers want alternatives. They don't want to be locked into one vendor. AMD is stepping into that gap. Every design win, every incremental order, makes the case stronger that AMD is not just playing catch-up, but actually competing for meaningful market share in one of the fastest-growing segments of tech. We also can't ignore the recent Analyst support. Truist Securities upgraded AMD to a buy rating and raised its price target to $213, arguing that hyperscale data center customers now see AMD as a credible partner rather than just a cheaper option. That kind of shift in perception is crucial. It signals that the market is beginning to believe in AMD's role in the AI revolution, not just as a follower, but as a co-leader. When Wall Street analysts raise targets and institutions increase allocations, they can provide steady support even when headlines push the stock around. Then there's the bigger picture of market share. AMD continues to chip away at Intel's dominance in both PCs and servers. Its unit share in PCs has grown to around 24%, while its revenue share has climbed even higher. In servers, the revenue share is now above 40%, a dramatic increase from just a few years ago. These aren't marginal improvements. They show that AMD is delivering products that customers value, and it's commanding premium pricing in important markets. So why did the stock slide into the long weekend? Part of it is simple profit-taking after a strong run. Part of it is sector rotation, as investors reassess positions after a big summer rally in AI names. And part of it is geopolitics. The export restrictions to China, the talk of tariffs, and now the specter of Chinese firms like Alibaba developing their own AI chips all add layers of uncertainty. Markets hate uncertainty, and traders use that as an excuse to take some money off the table. But it's important to distinguish between noise and signal. The noise is the day-to-day headlines and the short-term selling pressure. The signal is AMD's consistent progress in growing share, building partnerships, and strengthening its AI roadmap. That's what will ultimately determine the value of the company over the next few years. Heading into next week, the key question is whether AMD can hold support near $160 and start to rebuild momentum. If it does, this pullback will be remembered as a healthy consolidation phase rather than the beginning of a deeper decline. Technical traders will be watching for a bounce back into the mid-160s as confirmation that the uptrend remains intact. Fundamental investors will be looking for any new commentary from analysts or partners that reinforces confidence in AMD's trajectory. The long weekend itself could provide an opportunity for sentiment to reset. Sometimes when markets close for a few days, the intensity of the headlines fades and investors come back with a clearer perspective. If buyers return on Tuesday with a focus on the bigger picture, AMD could quickly regain lost ground. On the other hand, if new policy headlines or geopolitical shocks emerge, the stock could remain choppy in the near term. Either way, the longer-term outlook remains promising. AMD is well positioned to capture growth in AI, data centers, and high-performance compute. Its partnership with IBM on quantum-centric supercomputing adds a forward-looking dimension to the story. Its steady share gains against Intel in both PCs and servers prove it can execute consistently. And the continued expansion of its ROCm software ecosystem makes it more competitive in the AI stack. So as we head into the long weekend, the tone for AMD is one of cautious optimism. The stock has cooled off, yes, but it hasn't broken down. The sector as a whole is digesting a wave of news, but the fundamentals for AMD remain intact. Investors with a long-term horizon will see this as part of the normal rhythm of markets, rallies, consolidations, and then, if the story holds, another leg higher. The message to take away is simple: AMD is cooling off with calm. It's consolidating, not collapsing. And as opportunity builds over the long weekend, the stage is set for the next move in what remains one of the most compelling stories in tech.